Welcome to the Whispering Tome.
The mist clings to the valley floor as darkness settles over the mountains. High above, where the air grows thin and cold, a temple grows out of the rock itself, hidden, silent, almost forgotten by the world below. Within these walls, the old art of ninjutsu is still alive, passed from teacher to student in absolute secrecy. Night after night, a handful of shinobi move through these courtyards like shadows. They meditate beside low fires, walk the wooden corridors in silence, and practice their craft beneath the watchful eyes of the mountains. This is no legend, no story told from far away. This is life inside a hidden ninja temple, quiet, disciplined, and unseen. Welcome to the Whispering Tome. Here, we travel through history slowly. We follow ordinary days and quiet nights, and let the small details of real lives guide us gently towards sleep. Tonight, we will spend a full night in this hidden mountain temple, walking beside a single ninja as he trains, stands watch, and finally rests before dawn. Before we begin, make yourself comfortable. Dim the lights, slow your breathing, and let the day fall away. If you would like, tell me in the comments where in the world you are listening from and what time it is there right now. It is always a strange, cozy feeling to know how many distant nights are connected by the same story. When you are ready, close your eyes and let the mountains grow taller around you. The valley sinks into darkness, the lanterns are lit, and the ninja temple comes quietly to life. Our night in the shadows begins now. We step into the shadows alongside a shinobi, a ninja, to experience what few outsiders have ever witnessed, a complete night in one of feudal Japan's most guarded training compounds. From twilight training to midnight missions, from meditation to combat, this is the reality behind the legend. The Mountain Temple Complex represents a masterpiece of strategic architecture and concealment. Built during the Sengoku period, roughly between 1467 and 1615, these hidden training facilities served multiple clans across Japan, though the most famous belonged to the Iga and Koga regions. The main structure sits at approximately 1,200 meters elevation, accessible only through paths known to initiated members. The approach requires navigating false trails, hidden markers carved into specific trees, and terrain deliberately left treacherous to discourage accidental discovery. Stone steps, worn smooth by centuries of footfalls, wind through dense forest before opening into a courtyard surrounded by wooden buildings with distinctive curved roofs. The architecture follows principles found in documents like the Bansenshukai, the comprehensive ninja manual compiled in 1676. Every element serves dual purposes. The courtyard, seemingly open for training, contains hidden pits covered by false flooring. The main hall's floorboards, nightingale floors, emit distinctive chirping sounds when stepped upon incorrectly, alerting occupants to intruders while teaching students proper silent movement. Living quarters surround the perimeter in a defensive configuration. Each room connects to others through concealed passages. Wall panels slide away to reveal equipment caches, escape routes, and observation points. The temple's bell tower serves not only for timekeeping, but as a watchtower, with sight lines covering all approach routes. Underground, the complex extends into natural cave systems, expanded and reinforced over generations. These subterranean spaces house training chambers for specialized skills requiring darkness or confinement, storage for supplies sufficient to withstand months-long sieges, and emergency escape tunnels emerging at various points down the mountainside. Water comes from a mountain spring channeled through bamboo pipes, the system designed so that any tampering with the supply upstream would be immediately detectable. Gardens cultivate medicinal herbs, potent mixtures, and food supplies, self-sufficiency being paramount for a group operating in constant threat of discovery. As twilight deepens, our shinobi, we'll call him Takeshi, returns from a reconnaissance mission in the valley below. He's spent 3 days observing a rival clan's fortress, memorizing patrol patterns, architectural details, and the daily routines of key personnel. Such missions form the backbone of ninja operations, far more than the dramatic confrontations portrayed in popular culture. Takeshi approaches via the eastern path, the one used when returning from that particular region. Different routes serve different purposes, and using the wrong one would immediately signal distress or compromise. He pauses at specific intervals, performing bird calls, not random sounds, but precise sequences that identify him to watchers he cannot see. At the final checkpoint, a senior shinobi named Kenji emerges from concealment. Even knowing where to look, Takeshi barely detected his presence until movement betrayed the older warrior's position. This welcoming verification serves multiple functions, confirming identity, assessing the returning operative's condition, and determining whether they've been followed. Your posture indicates exhaustion, but no injury, Kenji observes. The mission was successful? Observed and recorded, Takeshi confirms, his voice barely above a whisper, despite their isolation. Years of training make such caution automatic. They proceed together to the main compound. At the entrance, Takeshi performs a specific sequence of movements, removing his footwear in a particular order, touching certain wooden beams, shifting his weight in ways that would seem natural to observers but actually serve to authenticate his identity. These protocols evolved over centuries, responses to infiltration attempts and betrayals that cost previous generations dearly. Inside, the evening meal proceeds in the common hall. Unlike the silent, solitary ninja of popular imagination, these warriors eat communally, though conversation remains minimal and purposeful. The meal consists of rice, pickled vegetables, miso soup, and small portions of dried fish. Historical records indicate ninja diets emphasized foods providing sustained energy without causing drowsiness, crucial for warriors who might be called to action at any moment. Takeshi reports formally to the clan leader, Muramasa, in a private chamber. The debriefing is exhaustive. Every detail matters. The number of steps between guard posts, the condition of roof tiles that might support a climber's weight, the facial features of every person observed well enough for later identification. Muramasa listens without interruption, occasionally asking questions that demonstrate his strategic comprehension. The Lord's personal guard captain, Muramasa asks, you observed his sword hand. Dominant right hand, but I witnessed him writing with his left during the evening meal. Ambidextrous or deliberately displaying false weakness. This level of observation typifies ninja intelligence gathering. The Bansenshukai emphasizes that successful operations depend on information quality far more than physical prowess. A shinobi who returns with complete intelligence has succeeded, even if they never drew a weapon. Following the debriefing, Takeshi tends to his equipment. His clothing requires inspection for damage, cleaning, and repair. The dark blue fabric, not pure black, which creates a suspicious silhouette at night, shows wear from 3 days in rough terrain. He methodically examines every stitch, replacing any weakness that might compromise future operations. His tools spread across a cloth in careful arrangement. The rope, constructed from women's hair for superior strength and silence, gets tested at multiple points. Climbing claws, shuriken, caltrops, lock licks, and various specialized implements each receive attention. The tanto knife, shorter than a samurai's wakizashi but perfectly balanced for close encounters, is cleaned and sharpened with movements refined through thousands of repetitions. This maintenance ritual serves psychological purposes beyond practical necessity. The methodical, focused activity helps transition from the heightened alertness of field operations to the controlled intensity of temple training. It centers the mind, reaffirms connection to tools that may preserve life, and reinforces the discipline fundamental to Shinobi identity. Night training begins. As full darkness settles over the mountain, the temple comes alive with activity most would find counterintuitive. While samurai traditionally trained during daylight hours, emphasizing honor and direct confrontation, ninja developed expertise in conditions their targets considered safe. The training courtyard, empty and silent during the day to avoid drawing attention, now hosts multiple simultaneous exercises. Young trainees, some as young as 6, practice basic movements under the observation of senior instructors. The youngest ones work on flexibility and balance, contorting into positions that will later allow them to hide in impossibly small spaces or maintain uncomfortable stances for hours. Takeshi, as an experienced operative, joins an advanced group for taijutsu, unarmed combat training. Unlike the stylized martial arts performances seen in demonstrations, this practice is brutal and pragmatic. Ninja combat techniques, as documented in historical scrolls, prioritized efficiency over aesthetics. Every movement serves a specific purpose: disable quickly, neutralize quietly, or escape when outnumbered. The instructor, a weathered warrior named Yoshiteru, who has survived more operations than most ninja ever undertake, calls for randori, free-form sparring. Remember, he states, his voice carrying clearly in the night air, a samurai seeks to display his skill. You seek to survive and complete your mission. These are not the same thing. Pairs form and begin. The combat appears chaotic to untrained eyes, but clear patterns emerge. Strikes target vulnerable points: eyes, throat, joints, nerve clusters. Grappling techniques emphasize joint locks and throws that exploit an opponent's momentum. There's no wasted movement, no theatrical spinning kicks or elaborate combinations. Takeshi faces a younger shinobi named Hikaru, talented but still learning to control aggression. They circle, both maintaining low, stable stances. Hikaru commits to an attack, a straight punch toward Takeshi's solar plexus. Takeshi doesn't block in the traditional sense, but redirects, using Hikaru's momentum to unbalance him. Before the younger warrior can recover, Takeshi has him in a wrist lock that would, in actual combat, cause severe injury. "Too eager," Takeshi says quietly, releasing him. "You telegraphed your intention 3 movements before striking. A samurai might not notice, but another shinobi would end you." This teaching approach pervades all training. Students learn not just techniques, but the subtle awareness that separates competent fighters from masters. Reading micro-expressions, detecting weight shifts, recognizing pre-attack tension, these skills matter more than strength or speed. After an hour of taijutsu, the groups transition to weapons training. Tonight's focus is the Kusarigama, a particularly formidable tool, combining a sickle blade with a weighted chain. Historical documents describe various ninja weapons, but the Kusarigama exemplifies their tactical philosophy: versatile, concealable, effective at multiple ranges, and utterly decisive in skilled hands. Yoshiteru demonstrates. The chain, approximately 3 meters long, terminates in a weight that can deliver heavy impact or restrain. The sickle blade, razor-sharp and curved, serves for slashing, hooking, or blocking. In Yoshiteru's hands, the weapon becomes a whirlwind of steel. The chain whistles through darkness, the weight describing precise arcs. The blade flashes, appearing suddenly at throat height before vanishing back into defensive posture. This weapon, Yoshiteru explains, exemplifies our principles. It confuses opponents accustomed to conventional weapons. The chain provides reach, entanglement, and distraction. The blade finishes. Together, they create opportunities no single weapon can match. Students practice basic forms, the repetitive movements drilling muscle memory. Takeshi, long past basics, works on advanced applications, using the chain to disarm opponents, transitioning between offensive and defensive configurations, maintaining awareness of the weapon's position even while focused on attackers. The training proceeds systematically through various weapon systems, shuriken throwing at barely visible targets, using blowguns with specialized darts, fighting with the short staff, wielding the ninja Tato sword. Each weapon receives enough attention to maintain proficiency, though true expertise requires dedication beyond what a single night allows. Stealth training in the forest. At what villagers below would call the Hour of the Ox, roughly 2 a.m., a selected group of shinobi, including Takeshi, prepares for advanced infiltration exercises. These sessions represent the pinnacle of ninja training, combining every skill into realistic scenarios. The group, 6 warriors of varying experience levels, receives their briefing. Tonight's objective: infiltrate a mock fortress constructed in the forest, neutralize designated targets without raising alarm, and extract before dawn. Instructors will play defenders, and they will not show mercy to students who fail. Yoshiteru adds a final warning. The youngest among you has trained for 3 years. The most senior has operated for 12. Respect the darkness, trust your training, and remember, arrogance defeats more shinobi than enemy swords. They disperse into the forest through different routes. Takeshi chooses a circuitous approach, adding time but providing opportunities to observe from multiple angles. The mock fortress, a semi-permanent structure of wood and stone, sits in a clearing roughly 1 kilometer from the temple compound. Guards, senior instructors, patrol in patterns mimicking actual military installations. Takeshi moves through the forest with practiced care. Each step tests ground before committing weight, avoiding twigs that might snap or loose rocks that might shift. His breathing matches the wind's rhythm, his movements syncing with rustling branches. This technique, called becoming one with nature in training scrolls, isn't mystical but intensely practical, pattern matching and sensory awareness refined to extraordinary levels. From a concealed position in thick underbrush, he observes the fortress for 30 minutes without moving. Patience, the scrolls emphasize repeatedly, determines mission success more than any other quality. He notes guard movements, their alertness levels, how they interact at patrol intersections. One guard appears slightly fatigued, his posture deteriorating late in his watch. Another shows nervous energy, frequently adjusting his grip on his spear. These observations inform Takeshi's approach. The fatigued guard presents less threat, but also less predictability. Tired men make erratic decisions. The nervous guard is more alert, but follows patterns more rigidly, making his movements easier to exploit. Takeshi selects his entry point, a section of wall where trees grow close enough to provide approach concealment, but not so close that defenders would naturally focus extra attention there. He waits for optimal conditions: clouds obscuring moonlight, wind sufficient to mask minor sounds, and the patrol cycle reaching its longest gap. The approach takes 20 minutes to cover 30 meters. This glacial pace frustrates newer students, but veterans understand that speed causes failure. Every movement flows naturally, indistinguishable from wind-stirred vegetation or nocturnal animals. At the wall's base, Takeshi pauses again. The climbing technique employs specialized claws, shuko and ashiko, metal bands with sharp points fitting over hands and feet. These tools, documented in historical records, allow ninjas to scale surfaces impossible for unequipped climbers. Takeshi ascends in near silence, his movements fluid despite the awkward position. At the wall's top, he encounters his first challenge. A guard passes directly below, positioned where any dropped object or sound would immediately alert him. Takeshi remains absolutely still, spread across the wall's upper surface, controlling even his breathing. The guard pauses, perhaps sensing something amiss. Seconds stretch. Finally, the guard continues his patrol. Inside the compound, Takeshi drops into shadow and reassesses. The fortress interior contains multiple buildings, any of which might house tonight's designated targets, wooden tokens marked with specific symbols. Finding them requires searching without being detected by roaming instructors, who will capture any student they catch. Other members of his team are now operating inside as well, though Takeshi neither sees nor hears them. Successful ninja operations maintain individual independence. Team members don't coordinate directly during infiltration phases because communication risks compromise. Takeshi selects the main building, reasoning that high-value targets would be centrally located. The entrance stands under direct observation, so he moves to the structure's rear. A window, barely large enough for a person, sits 3 meters up. Reaching it requires climbing the wall without the claw's telltale scratching sounds. He employs a different technique, finding natural irregularities in the wood, utilizing balance and core strength to work upward. At the window, he encounters a new obstacle. It's secured from inside. He produces a thin metal tool, working by touch alone to manipulate the simple latch. The window opens soundlessly, its hinges freshly oiled as they would be in an actual fortress. Inside, darkness is absolute. Takeshi waits for his eyes to adjust, listening intently. The building appears empty, but appearances deceive. He moves through the space with agonizing slowness, his hands extended but not touching anything until necessary. Each footfall tests flooring before committing weight, checking for nightingale boards or other alarm systems. In a corner room, he finds the first token. Success, but also danger. Finding the objective means little if capture prevents escape. He pockets the token and begins withdrawal. A floorboard creaks behind him. Takeshi freezes instantly, every sense focused. Another creak, closer. An instructor has entered the building, aware something is amiss. Takeshi has seconds to decide, hide, flee, or engage. He chooses to hide, pressing into a corner where structural beams create a small recess. His breathing slows to near imperceptibility. The instructor enters the room, visible now in the faint moonlight filtering through the window. It's Yoshiteru, the most dangerous possible opponent. Yoshiteru stands motionless in the doorway, scanning. His gaze passes across Takeshi's position once, twice. Time becomes elastic. Then Yoshiteru moves to check another room, apparently satisfied. Takeshi maintains position for another 5 minutes, discipline preventing the natural impulse to immediately flee once the threat passes. Only then does he move toward extraction, retracing his route to the window. The return journey across the compound and over the wall proceeds smoothly. By the time Takeshi reaches the forest, false dawn has begun lighting the eastern sky. He doesn't return directly to the temple, but instead moves to a designated collection point where the team reassembles. Of the 6 who began, 5 successfully extracted. The 6th, young Hikaru, sits with instructors receiving feedback on his capture. He got inside successfully, but became impatient during observation phases, moving before confirming clear paths. An instructor spotted movement and tagged him with colored powder, the evening's equivalent of elimination. Dawn debriefing and meditation. As the sun reaches the horizon, the training team returns to the temple proper. The night's exercises have pushed them to physical and mental limits, but the work isn't complete. Debriefing transforms experience into refined knowledge. The The session occurs in a Spartan room, participants seated in Seiza, the formal kneeling position. Despite exhaustion, posture remains perfect. This discipline isn't arbitrary. It demonstrates mental control transcending physical discomfort, a quality essential for shinobi work. Yoshiteru leads the analysis. Each participant describes their approach, decisions, and outcomes. This radical transparency serves multiple purposes. Individuals learn from their mistakes, others gain insights from alternative approaches, and instructors assess not just performance but judgment. Takeshi describes his circuitous approach and extended observation period. Yoshiteru nods. Time invested in reconnaissance is never wasted. However, consider your wall climbing technique. The natural irregularities method appears silent but requires significantly more time. If mission circumstances demanded faster infiltration, would you have alternative approaches ready? The question isn't rhetorical. Takeshi must demonstrate he's thought through multiple scenarios. In time-sensitive situations, I would accept higher risk of detection, using the claws, but with fabric wrapping to dampen sound. Alternatively, if the wall proved too challenging, the roof offers possible entry, using the tree branches you deliberately left trimmed close to the structure. Acceptable, Yoshiteru confirms. You recognize the option I planted and can articulate the risk-benefit analysis. This is thinking that keeps you alive. They examine Hikaru's failure with equal thoroughness, but without judgment. Failure during training, the philosophy holds, prevents failure during actual operations where consequences prove permanent. I saw movement in the shadows, Hikaru explains, and assumed another guard approaching. I moved to avoid what I thought was imminent detection. What you saw, Yoshiteru reveals, was another student, Takeshi actually. Had you remained still, you would have been undetectable. Your movement caught my attention. This illustrates a critical principle. Hasty action to avoid perceived danger often creates actual danger. Following debriefing, the morning meal provides recovery. The food, deliberately simple, includes items specifically selected for physical restoration: fermented soybeans for protein, rice for sustained energy, and seaweed for mineral content. Historical texts on ninja nutrition reveal sophisticated understanding of dietary needs, developed through generations of operational experience. After eating, the schedule mandates meditation. This practice, often portrayed mystically in popular culture, serves distinctly practical purposes in ninja training. The meditation isn't about achieving enlightenment or communing with supernatural forces. It's about developing mental control, recovering from stress, and maintaining psychological balance. Takeshi joins other shinobi in the meditation hall. The space, deliberately austere, contains nothing but tatami mats and a small altar. Morning light filters through paper screens, creating an environment neither bright nor dark. The meditation technique, passed down through the clan, combines breathing control, visualization, and progressive relaxation. Takeshi begins by consciously relaxing muscle groups, starting with his feet and moving upward. This systematic approach addresses the physical tension accumulated during the night's exertions. Breathing follows precise patterns: 4 counts inhale, 7 counts hold, 8 counts exhale. These specific ratios, documented in historical training manuals, produce measurable physiological effects: lowered heart rate, reduced stress hormone levels, enhanced mental clarity. The visualization component involves mentally rehearsing techniques and scenarios. Takeshi reviews the night's infiltration, examining his decisions from a detached perspective. He visualizes alternative approaches, imagining how different choices would have unfolded. This mental training proves nearly as valuable as physical practice, strengthening neural pathways associated with skilled performance. 40 minutes pass before the meditation session concludes. Takeshi opens his eyes, feeling restored, the exhaustion transformed into focused calm. This transition from intense activity to controlled recovery represents another crucial skill. Effective warriors must manage their own psychological and physical resources, knowing when to push limits and when to restore reserves. The intelligence network. While shinobi like Takeshi train and prepare, another crucial aspect of ninja operations proceeds continuously: intelligence gathering and analysis. The temple houses what we might now call an intelligence operations center, though its methods would seem alien to modern agencies. In a room accessible only through concealed passages, 3 senior operatives maintain the clan's information archives. These aren't simple warriors, but specialists in analysis, synthesis, and strategic assessment. One, an elderly woman named Ayame, has never personally conducted a field operation, but possesses encyclopedic knowledge of regional politics, family genealogies, and trade relationships accumulated over 50 years. The information exists in multiple forms. Scroll shelves line one wall, containing everything from maps to detailed observations of individuals who might become relevant to clan interests. A large table displays a 3-dimensional topographical model of the surrounding provinces, updated constantly as new intelligence arrives. Markers indicate known threats, opportunities, and uncertainties. Ayame reviews Takeshi's report from his recent reconnaissance mission. She compares his observations against existing information about the target fortress, noting confirmations, contradictions, and new details. Every discrepancy receives scrutiny. It might indicate changed circumstances or errors in previous reporting. The guard captain's ambidexterity, she notes to her colleagues, aligns with a report from 6 months ago, suggesting special training with a swordmaster known for teaching both-handed techniques. This confirms earlier intelligence and suggests the Lord is investing significantly in personal security. They discuss implications. Increased security might indicate the Lord feels threatened, possibly planning actions that would create enemies. Or perhaps he's received warnings about specific threats. Each interpretation suggests different strategic responses. This analytical work exemplifies aspects of ninja operations rarely depicted in popular media. The dramatic midnight missions rest on foundations of meticulous information gathering, careful analysis, and strategic planning. Historical documents like the Bansenshukai devote extensive sections to intelligence tradecraft, emphasizing that successful shinobi operations require understanding not just physical techniques, but human psychology, organizational behavior, and political dynamics. The intelligence specialists also manage the clan's network of informants, people who might not even know they're providing useful information. A merchant traveling between territories, a servant in a noble household, a monk visiting various temples, each potentially provides pieces of the larger puzzle. These informants aren't typically recruited through coercion or payment, though both methods see use when necessary. More commonly, ninja operatives establish seemingly innocent relationships, becoming trusted acquaintances who occasionally ask casual questions. A shinobi disguised as a traveling craftsman might spend weeks in a town, slowly gathering information through normal social interactions. Ayame manages these relationships carefully, tracking which operatives are deployed where, ensuring no suspicious patterns emerge, and extracting maximum intelligence from fragmentary reports. She creates profiles of key individuals throughout the region, their personalities, ambitions, weaknesses, relationships, and routines. Lord Takeda's 3rd son, she explains to a newly assigned intelligence operative, shows interest in Western philosophy and collects books. Approach him through that interest. Become a source for rare texts. He's intelligent but isolated, eager for intellectual companionship. In 6 months, he'll confide things his father would never reveal publicly. This patient, long-term approach to intelligence gathering reflects sophisticated understanding of human behavior. The ninja didn't simply appear, gather specific information, and vanish. They built systematic, ongoing capabilities for understanding their operational environment. Specialized skills training. As morning advances towards midday, different specialists within the temple conduct focus training sessions. While basic combat and infiltration skills are universal among shinobi, individuals develop particular expertise based on aptitude and strategic need. One chamber hosts kunoichi, female ninja, practicing specialized infiltration techniques. Historical records, though sparse regarding female operatives, confirm their existence and acknowledge their distinct capabilities. Kunoichi could access environments impossible for male shinobi, using social structures and expectations as cover. The training emphasizes disguise, influence, chemical craft, and information extraction through conversation. One exercise involves maintaining cover identity under aggressive questioning. An instructor plays a suspicious guard, while trainees must respond naturally without breaking character or revealing mission objectives. A young kunoichi named Akane practices approaching and engaging a target, played by an instructor. She's been given a background story, a traveling performer seeking temporary lodging, and must extract specific information without appearing to interrogate. The conversation appears natural, discussing local festivals and notable families. Akane gradually steers toward her intelligence targets, making inquiries seem like innocent curiosity or necessary information for her supposed performance schedule. When the instructor suddenly changes mood, becoming suspicious, Akane adapts smoothly, deflecting with humor and maintaining her cover story. Acceptable, the instructor concludes. Your character remained consistent, you achieved primary objectives, and you recognized when to withdraw rather than pushing too hard. However, you touched your hair 3 times during stress points in the conversation, a tell that observant opponents will notice. Elsewhere, another specialist conducts training in medical techniques. Ninja medicine, documented in historical texts, encompassed both healing and harming. Operatives needed to treat their own injuries in field conditions, understand antidotes, and occasionally keep enemy personnel functional for interrogation. The medical instructor, a wiry man whose gnarled hands reveal decades of experience, demonstrates treating a sword wound. Field conditions mean limited supplies and non-sterile environments. Stopping bleeding takes priority, then preventing infection, then managing pain. He shows suturing techniques, using materials available in wilderness settings. Animal sinew, plant fibers, even human hair. Students practice on training materials, learning to work quickly and effectively. The instruction includes herbal remedies, which plants staunch bleeding, which prevent infection, which manage pain, and where to find them in different seasons. The same instructor teaches pressure points and nerve strikes, combat techniques that incapacitate without eliminating. Fallen enemies create investigations and revenge cycles, he explains. Unconscious enemies create confusion and wasted time while they're found and revived. Choose your outcome based on strategic needs. Another chamber hosts training in Hensojutsu, disguise and impersonation. This skill extends far beyond simply wearing different clothing. It requires adopting different gaits, postures, speech patterns, and mannerisms. A samurai moves differently than a farmer, speaks differently, thinks differently. Successful impersonation demands understanding and embodying these differences. The instructor, himself a master of transformation, demonstrates by becoming an elderly merchant. His entire presence shifts from the alert, controlled warrior to a shuffling, harmless-seeming old man worried about his wares. The transformation is complete enough that students who know him intellectually still find themselves responding to the character rather than the man. Your body knows truth even when your mind is fooled, he explains, returning to his normal posture. That's why we train your body to lie. Muscle memory must support your disguise, not betray it. Students practice for hours, adopting different personas and maintaining them while performing tasks. The goal is making the disguise so natural that even under stress or distraction, the cover identity remains intact. The clan structure and philosophy. During the afternoon, while some operatives rest or conduct maintenance, Takeshi attends a less physical but equally important activity, instruction in clan philosophy and organizational principles. The session occurs in the temple's most secure chamber, attended only by full members who have proven absolute loyalty through years of service. The instructor is Muramasa himself, the clan leader, whose responsibilities extend beyond tactical command to preserving the knowledge and values that define the organization. Understanding why we exist matters as much as understanding what we do, Muramasa begins. Without that understanding, we become simple criminals, distinguished from bandits only by superior technique. He explains the clan's origins during the chaotic Sengoku period, when central authority collapsed and regional warlords competed for power. In that environment, conventional military forces followed predictable patterns. Samurai culture emphasized direct confrontation, formal battlefield tactics, and visible demonstrations of martial prowess. Our founders recognized that different circumstances demand different methods, Muramasa continues. They developed techniques suited for small groups operating against larger forces, for achieving strategic objectives without committing to pitched battles, and for gathering information that conventional reconnaissance couldn't obtain. This contextual understanding matters because it shapes operational philosophy. Ninja techniques aren't simply about being sneaky or using unusual equipment. They represent a comprehensive strategic approach based on information advantage, psychological tactics, and asymmetric capabilities. Muramasa discusses the concept of Shinobi no Mono, one who endures. Endurance means more than physical tolerance. It means maintaining mission focus despite fear, discomfort, or opportunity for easier paths. It means accepting years of preparation for missions lasting minutes. It means living in shadow while others receive glory. The organizational structure itself reflects strategic priorities. The clan maintains relatively flat hierarchy. Muramasa holds ultimate authority, but experienced operatives exercise significant autonomy. This structure enables rapid decision-making in field conditions where central command cannot provide real-time direction. Loyalty mechanisms differ from those in samurai culture. While samurai served lords they might never personally meet, bound by formal honor codes, ninja loyalty develops through shared experience, mutual dependence, and demonstrated commitment to collective survival. Trust must be earned continuously, never assumed. We survive, Muramasa states, because we trust sparingly but completely. Every person in this temple has proven themselves through action, not words. You know that the operative beside you will maintain mission security even under extreme duress. You know that intelligence you provide will be used wisely. This trust makes us effective where larger organizations fail. The session addresses ethical boundaries. Yes, ninja organizations maintained ethical frameworks, though different from samurai codes. The clan accepts targeted elimination as a tool, but not indiscriminate violence. They gather information, but don't betray employers once terms are agreed. They use deception against enemies, but maintain truthfulness within the organization. We exist outside conventional society, but not outside all moral constraints. We are instruments, but instruments controlled by judgment. Your training emphasizes technique, but technique without judgment creates monsters. This philosophical instruction serves practical purposes. Operatives facing complex situations in the field must make decisions aligned with clan interests and values. Understanding the underlying principles enables better judgment than simple rule following. Muramasa discusses the clan's relationship with employers, the daimyo, merchants, and other powers who hire ninja services. They see us as tools, and in some sense we are, but we are tools that choose which hands wield us. We refuse contracts that would compromise our security or violate core principles. We maintain independence even while serving. The economic aspects receive attention as well. Ninja clans require substantial resources, training facilities, equipment, information networks, and support for operatives between missions. Some funding comes from contracts, but clans also engage in trade, lending, and other ventures. Financial independence enables operational independence, Muramasa notes. A clan desperate for income becomes a clan vulnerable to manipulation. We maintain reserves sufficient to refuse poor contracts and survive extended periods without employment. Evening combat scenarios. As afternoon transitions toward evening, the temple again comes alive with intensive training. Tonight's focus, complex combat scenarios requiring teams to coordinate against superior forces. The training area transforms into a mock village, buildings arranged to simulate the environment operatives might encounter during urban operations. Defenders, instructors, and senior students occupy the village in force, roughly 3 defenders for every attacker. The attacking team's objective: neutralize specific targets and extract without losing any team members. Takeshi leads a 4-person team, including Hikaru and 2 other experienced operatives. They receive their briefing. 2 high-priority targets located somewhere in the village, defended by alert forces, with civilian non-combatants present who must not be harmed. The added complexity of non-combatants reflects real operational conditions. Historical ninja operations occurred in populated areas where indiscriminate force would create problems far exceeding any tactical benefit. Successful operatives distinguished between threats and bystanders, achieving objectives with minimal disruption. The team conducts planning in a separate area. Takeshi sketches the village layout from memory, marking known strong points and likely defensive positions. Assumptions? He asks. Hikaru offers, targets will be in buildings providing best defense, probably the central structure with stone walls. Defenders will patrol, but also maintain static positions covering approaches. Another operative, Ichiro, adds, civilians complicate direct action. We'll need diversions to separate defenders from bystanders without causing panic that alerts everyone. They develop a plan: phased approach with reconnaissance element confirming target locations, diversionary action drawing defenders toward false threats, infiltration team moving on actual targets during the confusion, and coordinated extraction before defenders can reorganize. Implementation begins at full darkness. Takeshi and Ichiro separate from the group, approaching the village from different angles to conduct reconnaissance. They move with the practiced silence that marks experienced shinobi, their progress invisible from even moderate distances. From concealment, Takeshi observes the village for 30 minutes. He identifies defenders' positions, patrol patterns, and behavioral tells: which guards are alert, which are bored, which positions receive how much oversight from supervisors. He also notes civilian markers, mannequins positioned to represent non-combatants that must not be harmed. Using pre-arranged signals, specific patterns of reflected moonlight off polished metal, he communicates with Ichiro, confirming observations and target locations. They've identified both high-priority targets in separate buildings, each with significant defensive presence. The team executes their diversion. Hikaru, the youngest and most energetic, creates disturbances at the village edge, sounds suggesting multiple intruders approaching from that direction. The effect is immediate. Defenders shift toward the threat, concentrations of force moving away from the target buildings. Takeshi and Ichiro use the confusion, moving through now thinned defenses toward their respective targets. At his building, Takeshi encounters a remaining defender, an instructor deliberately positioned to test exactly this scenario. Combat erupts in controlled intensity. They're using training tools, wooden practice swords that still deliver substantial impact, and protective gear, but the fighting is fast and brutal. The instructor's skill exceeds Takeshi's, his movements economical and devastatingly effective. Takeshi doesn't try to defeat him in direct combat. That's not the mission. Instead, he employs distraction techniques, throwing small objects to momentarily divide attention, using smoke powder to obscure vision, creating openings to evade rather than engage. The strategy works. Takeshi slips past into the building while the instructor deals with the environmental confusion. Inside, he locates the target marker and prepares for extraction. The withdrawal proves more challenging than infiltration. Defenders, now alert to the deception, converge on the target buildings. The team must exit through hostile territory while maintaining speed sufficient to reach extraction points before being overwhelmed. Takeshi's team employs coordinated movement, members covering each other as they leapfrog towards safety. Hikaru takes a simulated hit, a colored powder strike marking what would be an incapacitating injury. Ichiro immediately compensates, providing cover while Takeshi physically assists Hikaru's movement. They reach the extraction point with seconds to spare, defenders close behind but not quite catching them. The exercise concludes with defensive instructors' positions marked to show how close pursuit came. The debriefing for the combat scenario extends past midnight. Every decision gets examined, alternative approaches discussed, and lessons extracted. Even successful missions provide learning opportunities. What worked this time might fail next time, or might have succeeded for reasons participants didn't fully understand. Yoshiteru provides the final assessment. Mission accomplished, but barely. Your planning was adequate, execution acceptable, and adaptation to complications sufficient. However, you relied heavily on distraction tactics that sophisticated opponents would recognize and counter. Consider alternative approaches for scenarios where defenders are more experienced. The criticism isn't harsh, but it's direct. Continuous improvement demands honest assessment, untempered by ego or face-saving. This culture of straightforward feedback enables the clan to refine techniques, share knowledge effectively, and prevent repeating mistakes. As the night session concludes, Takeshi returns to his quarters for brief rest before the cycle begins again. His chamber, austere like everything in the temple, contains minimal furnishings, a sleeping mat, a small chest for personal items, and equipment always kept within reach. He performs a final equipment check, ensuring readiness for immediate deployment should emergency arise. This constant preparedness defines Shinobi existence. Even during designated rest periods, the possibility of sudden action remains. Before sleeping, Takeshi spends minutes in reflection, mentally reviewing the night's lessons. This practice, encouraged throughout the organization, reinforces learning and helps integrate new skills into existing knowledge frameworks. The best training occurs not just during physical practice, but in thoughtful analysis afterward. The temple grows quiet, though guards remain alert and watchposts stay manned. Outside, the mountain stands sentinel over the valley below, keeping its secrets as it has for centuries. Closing reflection. A night in the life of a ninja reveals realities far removed from popular depictions. These warriors weren't supernatural shadow dancers, but highly trained professionals whose effectiveness rested on systematic technique, careful planning, and psychological sophistication. The historical ninja, as documented in scrolls like the Bansenshukai and supported by archaeological evidence from training sites, developed comprehensive systems addressing every aspect of covert operations. Their training encompassed combat, certainly, but extended to intelligence analysis, disguise, medicine, survival skills, and strategic thinking. The Mountain Temple represents institutional knowledge accumulated across generations. Each technique, each training method, each organizational principle emerged from operational experience, successes that validated approaches and failures that demanded innovation. Modern military special operations forces would recognize much in ninja methodology. The emphasis on intelligence gathering, the preference for indirect approaches, the careful mission planning, the continuous training, these principles transcend specific historical contexts. Different eras use different tools, but core concepts of asymmetric tactics remain consistent. What perhaps stands out most is the discipline pervading every aspect of shinobi life. The patience to observe for hours before acting, the dedication to master techniques requiring years of practice, the emotional control to function effectively despite fear or stress, these qualities enabled success more than any secret technique or special device. The young operative Hikaru, captured during training exercises, will benefit more from that failure than from easy success. He learned experientially that haste creates vulnerability, that perception can deceive, and that assumptions require constant verification. These lessons, reinforced through realistic training, will serve him throughout his career. Takeshi, the experienced operative, continues refining skills despite years of successful operations. His recognition that competence requires continuous development reflects the philosophical foundation underlying the entire system. Mastery is never achieved, only pursued. The intelligence specialists like Ayame demonstrate that effective operations require more than field operatives. Analysis, planning, and strategic assessment transform individual capabilities into organizational power. The temple succeeds not because it contains exceptional individuals, though it does, but because it has systems for leveraging individual abilities toward collective purposes. As dawn approaches after this night of training, operations, and learning, the cycle prepares to begin again. Different scenarios will test different skills. New intelligence will require assessment. Ongoing missions will demand attention. The work continues because threats continue, because employers require services, and because the clan must maintain capabilities to survive in a dangerous world. The life of a ninja was never easy or glamorous. It demanded everything and promised little beyond survival and the respect of peers who understood the sacrifices required. Those who thrived in this environment possessed not superhuman abilities, but extraordinary discipline, comprehensive training, and absolute commitment to their craft. The Mountain Temple, hidden in mist and secrecy, preserves this legacy. Within its walls, traditions pass from generation to generation, adapting to changing circumstances while maintaining core principles. The specific techniques evolve as technology and tactics change, but the underlying concepts, preparation, information, indirect action, psychological advantage, remain constant. This night in the life of a ninja offers glimpses into a world operating by different rules than conventional society. It's a world where success means invisibility, where the best operations leave no evidence they occurred, and where practitioners measure achievement not by public recognition, but by missions accomplished and comrades who return safely. The historical reality of ninja organizations proves more fascinating than fictional embellishments. These were rational, methodical professionals who understood their environments deeply and developed capabilities precisely suited to their operational requirements. They weren't mystical shadow warriors, but pragmatic experts who succeeded through superior preparation, training, and strategic thinking. As modern students of history and strategy, we can appreciate the sophistication of their systems while recognizing the specific context that created them. The Sengoku period's political fragmentation and constant warfare created demand for capabilities conventional military forces couldn't provide. Ninja organizations filled that demand, developing expertise that proved decisive in conflicts where information and psychological operations mattered as much as battlefield prowess. The temple stands as monument to their achievement, not individual heroics, but systematic excellence, not supernatural powers, but mastered techniques, not lucky victories, but prepared capabilities meeting opportunity. This is the true heritage of the shinobi, preserved in stone and secrecy high in the mountains where few will ever venture. The medicine and chemical arts. As the new day breaks over the mountain temple, specialized training continues in areas that distinguish ninja from conventional warriors. One of the most crucial yet least understood aspects of shinobi craft involves medical knowledge and its darker counterpart, the science of chemical agents. In a chamber separate from the main training areas, the clan's medical specialist Daichi oversees instruction in what historical texts call Kusurijutsu, the art of medicines. This knowledge, preserved in scrolls and transmitted through direct teaching, represents centuries of accumulated expertise about human physiology, botanical properties, and chemical interactions. The training room contains an extensive collection of preserved plants, minerals, and animal products. Shelves hold hundreds of labeled containers, each marked with specific preparation methods, dosages, and applications. A work table displays various tools, mortars and pestles, measuring devices, distillation equipment, and careful documentation of formulas. Daichi, whose weathered face and steady hands reflect decades of practice, addresses a small group of advanced students, including several who will soon undertake independent operations. A shinobi who understands only how to harm is incomplete, he begins. You must know equally how to heal yourself, your comrades, and when strategically valuable, even your enemies. The instruction begins with wound treatment under field conditions. Daichi produces a realistic training dummy showing various simulated injuries, deep cuts, puncture wounds, burns, and broken bones. Your 3 days from the temple, supplies limited to what you carry. Prioritize. Students assess the injuries, debating treatment sequences. The massive bleeding wound, the broken bone, the burn that might become infected. Each choice carries implications, and wrong decisions mean fatal results. In training, they mean failure, but the consequences they represent are brutally real. Bleeding first, always, Daichi confirms. Operatives who succumb to injury cannot complete missions. The arterial cut here would cause loss of consciousness in minutes, fatality shortly after. Everything else is secondary. He demonstrates field tourniquet application using cloth strips torn from clothing, showing precisely how tight, where to position, and how to secure against the struggling that injured people instinctively perform. The students practice on each other, learning to work quickly while maintaining exectiveness. Pain management matters strategically, Daichi continues. An operative incapacitated by pain compromises mission security. Shock from untreated pain causes physiological collapse. You must manage pain effectively while maintaining the patient's consciousness and cognitive function. He introduces various analgesic preparations derived from potent plants. Each substance receives detailed explanation, preparation methods, dosing calculations based on body weight, onset times, duration of effects, and side effects that might impair operational capability. Strong sedative derivatives provide powerful pain relief but cause stupor and confusion, Daiichi explains. Useful when extracting a wounded operative who needs only to survive transport. Dangerous when that operative must remain alert for continued mission activity. Choose your intervention based on strategic requirements, not just medical ideals. The students learn to prepare tinctures, poultices, and infusions using equipment that could be improvised in field conditions. They practice identifying medicinal plants by appearance, smell, and touch, crucial skills when operating in unfamiliar territory without prepared supplies. Infection prevention receives extensive attention. Daiichi shows cleaning techniques using various substances: alcohol distilled from rice wine, concentrated salt solutions, even urine in desperate circumstances. Infection claims more warriors than combat, he states. Days after successful operations, sepsis claims operatives who survived the immediate dangers. This is an unacceptable loss, preventable through proper technique. Students learn to recognize infection symptoms: increased warmth, redness, swelling, purulent discharge, fever. They practice cleaning techniques to prevent bacterial growth on animal specimens, developing the stomach for unpleasant but necessary medical procedures. The instruction shifts to bone setting and splinting. Daiichi produces actual broken bones from animals, but anatomically similar enough to human structures for training purposes. Improperly set fractures cripple. An operative who cannot climb, run, or fight becomes a liability rather than an asset. He demonstrates reduction techniques, manipulating broken bones back into proper alignment, and proper splinting using available materials. The students practice, learning to distinguish by touch whether bones have seated correctly, how much force to apply, and how to secure splints that will maintain alignment during movement. Then the instruction takes a darker turn. The same knowledge that heals can harm, Daiichi says, his expression becoming more serious. This is necessary knowledge, but it carries responsibility. Chemical agents are a tool, not a solution. It creates problems as well as solving them. Use it with full understanding of consequences. He begins with botanical compounds, starting with those growing locally. Specific toxic plants contain alkaloids that disrupt heart rhythm. Others produce delirium and hallucinations or progressive paralysis. Each plant receives detailed coverage: identification, preparation, delivery methods, symptom progression, and timing. Timing matters critically in targeted elimination operations, Daiichi explains. A toxin that acts in minutes creates immediate suspicion, focused on recent interactions. An agent that manifests after days allows the operative to be far from the scene when symptoms appear. Choose your agent based on operational requirements. He demonstrates preparation techniques for various mixtures. Some require simple extraction, crushing plant material, and straining the juice. Others demand more complex chemistry: distillation, concentration, combination with binding agents. The students take meticulous notes, understanding that errors in preparation could mean their own demise. Delivery methods receive careful attention. Treated weapons, blades, darts, arrows, work reliably if the agent remains stable on the weapon's surface and enters the bloodstream effectively. Food and drink contamination requires compounds that remain effective despite heat, mixing with other substances, and digestive processes. Consider the target's habits, Daiichi advises. A paranoid lord employs food tasters, making direct administration difficult, but he must still breathe. Aerosol agents delivered through ventilation or incense become viable alternatives. Strategic thinking matters as much as chemical knowledge. The instruction covers antidotes and treatments for various toxins. Operatives might be targeted by opponents using similar techniques, or might accidentally expose themselves during preparation. Understanding treatment could mean the difference between mission completion and failure in enemy territory. Daiichi shows activated charcoal preparation for binding ingested substances, emetic techniques for purging stomach contents, and specific antidotes for common agents. Your survival kit must include basic countermeasures, he states. Assume enemies know the same techniques you're learning. The students practice preparing various compounds under Daiichi's supervision. The work requires precision, measurements must be exact, procedures followed carefully, and results tested on animals before being considered reliable. A student named Kenji slightly miscalculates a dosage in his preparation. Daiichi catches the error immediately. That concentration would eliminate your target in 30 minutes instead of the intended 6 hours, he points out. The timing error compromises operational security. The target collapses during a meeting. Immediate investigation focuses on everyone present. Your error turns a successful elimination into a failed operation with maximum exposure. Precision matters absolutely. The medical training extends to psychological effects. Certain compounds affect perception, judgment, and memory. These substances serve intelligence operations. An enemy commander affected by subtle cognitive impairment makes worse strategic decisions. A guard experiencing mild paranoia might be more easily manipulated or distracted. Understand that you're manipulating human biology and psychology, Daiichi says. Effects vary by individual physiology, current health status, and mental state. A dose perfect for one target might be insufficient or excessive for another. You must observe, assess, and adjust based on the specific operational context. The students learn to recognize symptoms of various intoxications in themselves and others. Early detection enables treatment before symptoms become irreversible. They practice maintaining operational capability even while experiencing mild toxic effects, the discipline to complete missions despite physical distress. Daiichi concludes the session with ethical framework discussion. These techniques exist to serve strategic purposes, not personal vendettas or casual cruelty. The clan maintains standards. Chemical tools are used when other methods prove infeasible, when mission parameters specifically justify their use, or when defensive necessity demands them. You are being trusted with dangerous knowledge. That trust carries obligation. The students bow, acknowledging both the instruction and the responsibility it conveys. They understand that the medical and chemical arts represent some of the most powerful tools in the shinobi arsenal, powerful enough to change political situations without deploying large forces, but also powerful enough to create catastrophic problems if misused. Psychological warfare and manipulation. As afternoon arrives, another crucial dimension of ninjacraft receives attention: psychological operations and manipulation techniques. In a world where direct military confrontation often favored those with larger forces, the ability to achieve objectives through psychological means offered decisive advantages. The instructor for this session, Masanori, possesses a background unusual even among ninja. Before joining the clan, he served as an advisor to a provincial daimyo, learning firsthand how political power operates and how decisions get made in noble courts. His defection to the ninja clan, prompted by betrayals he witnessed, brought invaluable insight into the mindset of the aristocratic class. Physical infiltration gains you access, Masanori begins. Psychological infiltration gains you influence. The second proves far more valuable. He explains the fundamental principle. Humans make decisions based on emotion, perception, and cognitive biases, then rationalize those decisions with logic. Understanding and manipulating these non-rational factors allows ninja to guide targets toward desired behaviors without the targets recognizing external influence. A lord who believes he has independently decided on a course of action will pursue it with full commitment, Masanori states. A lord who knows he was influenced will resist, resent, and potentially expose the operation. Your goal is invisible influence. The target must believe all decisions are their own. The training covers various psychological principles documented through generations of operational experience. Fear and its management represent a primary tool. Humans under fear make predictable errors. They overestimate threats, trust wrong people, and take desperate actions. Creating and managing fear enables ninja to manipulate situations profoundly. Suppose your mission requires a lord to dismiss his most competent advisor, Masalori poses. Direct elimination creates martyrdom and investigation. Instead, you create circumstances making the lord fear that advisor. Anonymous messages suggesting betrayal. Subtle sabotage blamed on that advisor's recommendations. False evidence of suspicious meetings. The Lord's own fear drives the dismissal, and you remain invisible. Students practice crafting psychological operations. They receive scenarios, specific targets, desired outcomes, and available resources, and must design influence campaigns. One student, Riko, presents her approach for turning allied lords against each other. Create parallel deceptions, she explains. Send forged letters to Lord A suggesting Lord B plans betrayal. Simultaneously, stage incidents making Lord B believe Lord A threatens him. Each lord's defensive actions confirm the other's suspicions. They destroy their alliance without understanding external manipulation. Masanori nods approval. Sound principle, but consider second-order effects. When they eventually discover the strategy, what happens? Do they unite against common enemies? Does investigation expose your clan? Complete mental strategies require managing not just immediate outcomes, but long-term consequences. The instruction covers cognitive biases that ninja can utilize. Confirmation bias makes targets interpret ambiguous information as supporting their existing beliefs. Anchoring effects cause people to rely too heavily on first impressions. Authority bias makes individuals defer to perceived experts without adequate verification. A ninja posing as a traveling monk gains access to a fortress, Masanori explains. The monk's holy status creates authority bias. Guards are less likely to question, servants more likely to trust. The operative leverages that bias to gather intelligence, plant suggestions, or position resources for later use. The disguise works not because it's perfect, but because human psychology makes targets want to believe it. Students learn to build rapport and trust with targets. The techniques, refined through generations, mirror what modern psychology calls social dynamics. Mirroring body language and speech patterns creates unconscious comfort. Sharing minor secrets prompts reciprocal disclosure. Demonstrating value makes targets want to maintain the relationship. Intelligence gathering through conversation is an art, Masanori states. Direct questions raise suspicion. Skilled operatives guide conversations so targets volunteer information while believing they control the interaction. He demonstrates through role play, engaging a student in casual conversation about local politics. Within minutes, without asking a single direct question, he has elicited detailed information about power structures, personal relationships, and operational routines, all through seemingly innocent discussion. Notice how I never asked who commands the guard, Masanori points out. I mentioned seeing impressive soldiers and asked what makes this region so secure. The target volunteered command structure while explaining regional military excellence. People enjoy demonstrating knowledge. Use that impulse. The students practice conversational intelligence gathering, working in pairs. They learn to listen actively, identify productive conversational paths, and extract maximum information while maintaining natural interaction flow. The skill requires intense concentration, tracking what's been learned, identifying gaps, and guiding conversation without obvious steering. Memory techniques receive attention as well. Operatives must remember detailed information without writing anything that could be captured. The training covers mnemonic systems, memory palaces, association techniques, and structured recall methods. Students practice memorizing complex information, then reproducing it accurately hours later after engaging in distracting activities. Masanori introduces the concept of perception management. What people believe matters more than objective truth. A lord who believes his fortress is impenetrable maintains inadequate security. A commander who believes his forces outnumbers yours makes overconfident tactical decisions. Your mission isn't discovering truth, but shaping perception. The students analyze historical operations where perception management proved decisive. One case study involves ninja spreading rumors of supernatural activity near a target fortress. Guards, already superstitious, interpreted ordinary sounds as ghostly manifestations. Their fear and distraction enabled entry that would have been impossible against alert defenders. The supernatural explanation worked because it aligned with existing cultural beliefs, Masanori explains. In different contexts, different explanations prove effective. You must understand your target's worldview, then craft influence operations that resonate with their existing framework. Interrogation techniques form another component. When intelligence must be extracted from unwilling sources, psychological approaches often prove more effective than physical coercion. Building rapport, creating false trust, exploiting emotional vulnerabilities, these methods yield better information than physical pressure, which typically produces whatever answers the victim thinks will stop the pain. Extreme physical pressure creates compliance, not truth, Masanori states. A skilled interrogator makes the subject want to cooperate, perhaps through false friendship, perhaps through psychological pressure, perhaps through careful management of their situation. The subject should feel they benefit from disclosure. The ethical dimensions receive discussion. Psychological influence, perhaps more than physical force, raises questions about permissible methods. The clan maintains positions on these questions, boundaries that operatives must respect. We influence enemies to achieve strategic objectives, Masanori explains. We don't dismantle minds for pleasure or break people unnecessarily. Mental strategies are tools serving mission requirements. Like all tools, they must be used with discrimination and purpose. The session concludes with students presenting comprehensive psychological plans. Each presents a scenario, analyzes the target's psychological profile, identifies vulnerabilities, and designs an influence campaign. Masanori critiques each plan, identifying strengths, weaknesses, and potential improvements. Remember, he concludes, that these strategies succeed not through brilliant execution, but through accurate understanding of human nature. Study people, how they think, what they fear, what they desire. That knowledge makes you more effective than any weapon. Part 2. The Art of Identity and Entry. Evening training shifts focus to one of the ninja's most essential skills, Hensojutsu, the art of identity adoption and impersonation. This extends far beyond simple costume changes into comprehensive identity transformation, requiring psychological insight, cultural knowledge, and performance skill. The training area has been transformed into a simulation of a town market. Set pieces represent various merchant stalls, a tea house, and a street corner where locals might gather. Role players, other clan members, populate the space, creating an environment where students must maintain cover identities while accomplishing objectives. The instructor, an older kunoichi named Tome, has legendary status within the clan for her covert operations. Stories tell of her spending months embedded in enemy households, gathering intelligence while maintaining perfect cover. Now, semi-retired from field operations, she dedicates herself to teaching the next generation. Disguise fails when operatives think it's about appearance, Tomo begins. Clothing and makeup matter, certainly, but successful disguise is about becoming another person, thinking their thoughts, moving with their body, speaking with their voice. This requires understanding that person completely. She demonstrates by transforming before the students. Her posture shifts, her facial expression changes subtly, and suddenly she's no longer Tomo the instructor, but an elderly peasant woman coming to market. The transformation goes beyond physical appearance to encompass presence and energy. "Notice how my center of gravity shifted," she explains, returning to her normal bearing. Old people move differently because their bodies work differently. Their weight distribution changes, their flexibility decreases. Discomfort influences their movement patterns. To convincingly portray age, you must understand and embody these physical realities. The students begin practical exercises. Each has been assigned an identity to adopt: a merchant, a laborer, a minor official, a traveling entertainer. They've received background information about their characters, but must fill in the details through improvisation and research. Takeshi's assignment is a traveling scroll seller, a merchant dealing in written works, maps, and documents. This cover provides excellent access for intelligence gathering, as such merchants naturally engage with educated, wealthy customers who control strategic information. He prepares methodically. First, the physical appearance. He adjusts his clothing to match the station, quality adequate to indicate legitimate business, but not so fine as to suggest wealth that might attract robbery. He wears his hair in the style preferred by merchants of this type, slightly less formal than officials, but more maintained than laborers. But the real preparation involves understanding the roles psychologically. A scroll seller must have genuine knowledge of his supposed merchandise. Takeshi spends time reviewing actual scrolls, learning to discuss their content, age, and value. He practices the merchant's peculiar mixture of pride in goods and flexibility in pricing, the careful dance of negotiation that characterizes Japanese commerce. Your character's background shapes everything, Tomo instructs. Where did he apprentice? What regions has he traveled? What books or scrolls made particular impression on him? These details inform how he speaks, what references he makes, how he interprets situations. The practical exercise begins. Students enter the simulated market environment, where role players act as townspeople, guards, and potential intelligence sources. Each student must accomplish specific objectives while maintaining cover identity and gathering assigned intelligence. Takeshi approaches a tea house, where role players portray local merchants relaxing after business. His objective: learn the schedule for the next courier delivery to the regional fortress. He enters casually, orders tea, and settles into conversation with the merchants. "Business travels you far?" one merchant asks. "When opportunity calls," Takeshi responds, his mannerisms now fully embodying the scroll seller persona. "Recently acquired interesting maps from the capital, military survey quality. Perhaps your region has buyers for such materials?" The conversation flows naturally. Takeshi demonstrates genuine knowledge of cartography, discusses market conditions in various regions, and gradually steers toward transportation and logistics. Within 20 minutes, he has learned not only the courier schedule, but also details about security procedures and which guards might be amenable to incentives. Tomo watches from concealment, noting every detail. After 30 minutes, she calls the exercise halt and gathers students for analysis. Takeshi's performance showed strong technical competence, she assesses. His knowledge base supported the cover identity, his mannerisms matched the character, and he achieved objectives without raising suspicion. However, notice one detail: his hands. A true scroll seller has ink-stained fingers from constant handling of documents. Small physical details like this can expose otherwise perfect covers. The students examined their own performances, identifying successes and failures. One student maintained excellent verbal cover, but moved with a warrior's balance and awareness, posture that a simple laborer wouldn't possess. Another had perfect physical disguise, but lacked sufficient knowledge of their supposed profession, stumbling when role players asked specific technical questions. Preparation matters more than performance, Tome emphasizes. Research your cover identity thoroughly. Understand the profession, the social class, the regional variations. A merchant from Kyoto speaks differently than one from Edo. A laborer who works rice fields moves differently than one who works in construction. These details make disguise believable. The training covers various specific identities commonly used for covert operations. Each profession offers different access and faces different scrutiny. Monks and priests gain access through religious authority and social respect. People confide in holy figures. God posts often allow them passage, and their presence in various locations seems natural. However, they must demonstrate genuine religious knowledge. A fake monk exposed faces severe consequences. Merchants and traders have legitimate reasons to travel, ask questions, and interact with various social classes. They can carry concealed equipment as merchandise and establish presence in areas without raising suspicion. But they must understand commerce, negotiation, and the actual goods they supposedly trade. Entertainers, musicians, actors, storytellers access places seeking amusement. They can observe widely while performing, gather intelligence through conversations, and their transient nature means less scrutiny of backgrounds. However, they must possess actual performance skills adequate to maintain cover. Servants and laborers become invisible to aristocrats who barely notice lower-class individuals. This invisibility enables observation and intelligence gathering in plain sight. The challenge is maintaining cover while accomplishing objectives that might seem inconsistent with the menial role. Officials and minor bureaucrats can access documents, ask questions, and issue instructions that others follow. The risk is high. Official positions face more verification, and imposture of government representatives carries severe penalties. This cover requires extensive preparation and is reserved for advanced operatives. Tome provides instruction in accent and dialect modification. Japan's regional linguistic variations mean that someone's speech immediately reveals their origin. An operative infiltrating a region must speak with appropriate local characteristics or have a convincing explanation for foreign accent. Learn the key phonological differences, she explains. The Tokyo dialect uses different pitch accent patterns than Kansai. Certain verb conjugations vary regionally. Vocabulary choices signal social class and origin. You needn't speak perfectly, foreign merchants and travelers wouldn't, but glaring errors expose you. Students practice dialect modification, working with recordings and native speakers to adjust their speech. The training is tedious, requiring thousands of repetitions to override ingrained linguistic patterns. But the investment prevents exposure during operations where linguistic errors could prove fatal. Document replication and creation receives coverage as part of disguise operations. Operatives often require papers establishing their cover identity, travel permits, merchant licenses, letters of introduction. These documents must withstand examination by officials familiar with authentic versions. The clan maintains a workshop where specialists produce high-quality replica documents. Students learn to recognize authentic documents' characteristics, specific paper types, seal patterns, official signatures, and formatting conventions. They practice producing their own replicas, developing skills that might save their lives if captured without proper documentation. A perfect replica grants access, Tome states. An obvious fake means a fatal outcome. There is no middle ground. Either your document passes inspection or your mission fails catastrophically. The session includes instruction in counter-interrogation techniques. If a disguised operative faces questioning by suspicious officials, certain responses and behaviors can maintain cover while others guarantee exposure. Innocent people react to accusation differently than guilty ones, Tome explains. They show confusion before defensive anger. They provide specific details without hesitation. They appeal to authority rather than trying to flee. Understanding these psychological patterns helps you perform innocence convincingly. Students practice maintaining cover under hostile questioning. Role players act as suspicious guards or officials, using various interrogation techniques to break cover. The students must respond appropriately for their supposed identity, managing stress while maintaining consistent stories. Takeshi faces questioning about his scroll merchant cover. The role player presses hard. This document seems unusual. Where exactly did you acquire it? Takeshi responds with the mixture of confidence and deference appropriate to a legitimate merchant facing official scrutiny. The seller was an estate liquidation in Osaka, honored sir. The family's patriarch passed, heirs needed quick funds. I can provide his name if required for your records. The specificity and confidence, combined with willingness to provide verifiable information, signals innocence. A guilty party would likely be evasive, provide vague answers, or show stress disproportionate to the questioning. Acceptable response, Tome confirms. You provided specific, verifiable details while showing appropriate respect for authority. This is how innocent people respond to legitimate inquiry. The training concludes with students understanding that disguise represents one of the most complex ninja skills. It requires research and cultural knowledge to understand the role being portrayed, physical discipline to control posture, movement, and mannerisms, linguistic skill to speak appropriately for the character, psychological insight to think and react as the character would, improvisational ability to handle unexpected situations while maintaining cover, stress management to perform under the pressure of potential exposure. Perfect technical execution means nothing if your psychology fails, Tome summarizes. You must believe in your cover identity. When you truly become the character, others will believe as well. This is the highest level of disguise, not deception, but transformation. Part 3. Night Operations and Urban Stealth. As midnight approaches, the temple prepares for the night's most intensive training, full-scale urban stealth exercises in the valley below. Unlike the controlled environment of the temple complex, this training occurs in an actual village, with real buildings, genuine obstacles, and unknowing civilian population creating authentic operational conditions. The mission briefing occurs in the operation planning room. Muramasa personally leads this session, indicating the exercise's importance and risk level. Maps of the target village cover the walls, showing every structure, street, and potential obstacle. Tonight's objectives test everything you've learned, Muramasa states. You will enter the village, gather specific intelligence, and extract without alerting either the guards we've placed or the civilian population. This is as close to actual operations as training allows. The mission parameters are complex. Each operative receives different objectives, requiring them to access various parts of the village. They must avoid detection by both the instructor guards and actual village watchmen who patrol normally. Any civilian alerted to suspicious activity constitutes mission failure, as it would during real operations. Takeshi's specific objective: enter the headman's residence, locate and photograph documents from his study, and plant a listening tool that will function for the next week. The difficulty level is extreme. The residence sits in the village center, surrounded by occupied homes, with the headman's family sleeping inside. The team departs the temple in darkness, each operative carrying only essential equipment. They wear dark clothing designed to blend with shadows, not the stereotypical black outfit that would actually create suspicious silhouettes. Their tools are carefully selected: climbing equipment, precision tools, writing materials, and the miniaturized audio device. The descent from the mountain takes an hour, the operatives moving in complete silence through the forest. They communicate only through predetermined hand signals, maintaining noise discipline that prevents any possibility of alerting villagers to activity on the mountain. At the forest edge, they separate, each approaching their assigned objectives through different routes. Takeshi circles to approach from the village's far side, the path that offers best concealment but requires navigating through residential areas where dogs might bark and light sleepers might notice sounds. He pauses at the village edge, observing for 20 minutes. The village appears asleep, a few lanterns burning in windows, but most homes dark. 2 watchmen patrol, regular villagers performing guard duty, not the instructor guards who lurk somewhere in the environment. Their patrol pattern is irregular, probably because they're bored and undisciplined rather than alert and systematic. Takeshi times his movement to coincide with the watchman's furthest separation. He moves through the village in short advances, pausing in shadows to observe and listen before each progression. His footfalls make no sound, his breathing is controlled, and his awareness extends in all directions simultaneously. A dog begins barking 3 houses away. Takeshi freezes instantly, assessing whether the bark is directional, indicating the dog senses him, or general alertness to some other stimulus. The bark continues, but doesn't intensify or track his position. Another dog joins, then both quiet. Likely they heard an animal in the forest rather than detecting human presence. He continues, reaching the headman's residence after 15 minutes of careful approach. The building is substantial for a village home: 2 stories, tile roof, and a small garden surrounded by wooden fence. Lights are extinguished, suggesting the occupants are asleep. Takeshi observes from concealment, checking for unexpected complications. Is anyone awake inside? Are there dogs in the garden? Are instructor guards positioned nearby as additional obstacles? He sees and hears nothing suggesting immediate problems, but absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. The garden fence presents the first obstacle. Climbing over creates silhouette risk. Anyone looking toward the fence might see movement against the sky. Takeshi instead chooses a section where large bushes grow close to the fence, using them as visual screen while ascending and dropping silently into the garden. Inside the garden, he pauses again. The study, according to intelligence, is on the 2nd floor, making access more difficult. Ground floor entry and internal navigation risks encountering family members. External climbing to the 2nd floor reduces that risk, but creates different exposures. He chooses external approach. At the building's corner, where structural beams provide stronger support and therefore less creaking, he begins ascending. His climbing claws bite into the wooden posts softly, distributing weight to minimize structural stress. Each movement is deliberate, tested before commitment. At the 2nd floor, he reaches the study window. It's closed but not secured with the type of lock that would require extensive manipulation. Using a thin metal tool, he works the simple latch, feeling through the metal for the mechanism's position. After 2 minutes, the latch releases with a barely audible click. Takeshi listens intently. Has anyone inside stirred? Does any sound suggest his entry has been detected? Silence. He opens the window slowly, controlling its movement to prevent creaking, and slips inside. The study is dark and cluttered with documents, scrolls, and books. Finding the specific intelligence among this mass requires systematic search without creating disorder that would alert the headman tomorrow to the presence of an intruder. Takeshi produces a small, shielded lantern that emits minimal light, just enough to examine documents without creating visible illumination from outside. He photographs the required documents using a specialized miniature camera, expensive equipment provided only for the most sensitive operations. Each photograph must be precisely framed and clearly exposed, as retaking photographs would require impossible return to the location. The listening tool placement requires careful thought. It must be positioned where sound will be captured clearly, but where routine cleaning won't discover it. Takeshi selects a location behind the headman's desk, concealed within decorative woodwork. The device is tiny, barely larger than a coin, and its neutral color blends with the wood. Without knowing exactly where to look, finding it would be nearly impossible. Mission objectives accomplished, Takeshi prepares for extraction. This phase often proves more dangerous than entry. Operatives feel relief at success and become less cautious, or they hurry to exit and make errors that alert targets. He moves to the window, checking the garden and surrounding area. A figure stands near the fence, one of the instructor guards, positioned precisely where extraction seemed most feasible. Takeshi recognizes the tactical problem. Exiting via the entry route is now impossible without detection. He must find alternative extraction. Staying inside until the guard moves risks dawn approaching or family members waking. He assesses other options: ground floor exit, roof access to adjacent buildings, prolonged concealment, hoping the guard relocates. Takeshi chooses the roof approach. Exiting through the study window, he climbs to the roof, moving with extreme care as tile roofs amplify sound dramatically. On the roof peak, he has broader view of surroundings. The instructor guard remains near the fence, but the adjacent building's roof appears unobserved. Moving across rooftops requires specialized technique. The traditional image of ninja running across roofs is dramatic but inaccurate. Such movement creates enormous noise and structural stress. Instead, Takeshi moves slowly, distributing weight across structural members, testing each position before committing. He reaches the adjacent building, then descends its far side, away from the instructor guard's position. This places him in a different section of the village, requiring a new extraction route, but avoiding detection takes priority over convenience. The return journey through the village demands renewed vigilance. Takeshi can't assume the single guard he observed represents the only obstacle. Other instructor guards likely patrol other areas. He moves through alleys and between buildings, avoiding open streets where exposure risk is highest. Near the village edge, he encounters unexpected complication. A civilian is awake, sitting on his porch, smoking a pipe. The man isn't alert or suspicious, just unable to sleep and taking the air, but he faces the direction Takeshi must travel to reach the forest. Takeshi waits, hoping the man will finish and return inside. Minutes pass. The man shows no inclination to move. Dawn approaches. Remaining much longer means extraction in daylight, which would constitute mission failure. Alternative routes exist, but would require extensive detour through more populated areas. Takeshi decides to proceed, moving through the man's peripheral vision at a moment when the man looks away to tap his pipe. The movement is so smooth and natural that even if glimpsed, it wouldn't register as threatening or suspicious. He reaches the forest edge safely and begins the ascent back to the temple. Behind him, the village remains peaceful and apparently undisturbed. If the operation was successful, the headman will never know his study was breached, and his conversation is now being monitored. Team coordination and multi-objective missions. Dawn breaks as the operatives return to the temple for comprehensive debriefing. This session will examine not just individual performance, but team coordination, as successful ninja operations often require multiple operatives working toward complementary objectives without direct communication. The debriefing room contains detailed maps and timeline reconstruction tools. As each operative reports, their movements and actions are plotted, creating a comprehensive picture of the night's activities. This systematic analysis reveals patterns, identifies risks, and extracts lessons. Muramasa leads the analysis personally. Begin with individual objective accomplishment. Did each operative achieve assigned goals? The reports come in sequence. Most operatives succeeded, though 2 failed. One detected by instructor guards during infiltration, another unable to access their target location due to unexpected obstacles. The failures are examined thoroughly, but without personal criticism. Failure during training is acceptable and educational. Failure during actual operations is catastrophic. Takeshi reports his mission: successful infiltration, document photography, device placement, and extraction despite encountering instructor guard positions. Muramasa nods acknowledgement, but immediately identifies learning points. Your initial extraction route was compromised by guard placement, he notes. This forced improvised alternative. Why wasn't the guard's position identified during pre-infiltration observation? The guard arrived after I entered the building, Takeshi responds. My observation period didn't detect his approach pattern. Suggesting what lesson? Longer observation periods, or positioning that maintains visibility of approach routes even during operation. Correct. Also consider that instructor guards deliberately positioned after your entry to create exactly this scenario. Real operations will face similar dynamic complications. Static plans fail when circumstances change. Successful operatives adapt while maintaining mission focus. The analysis shifts to team coordination. Although operatives worked independently, their actions affected overall operation success. One operative's movement through a village section potentially increased alert levels for others operating in adjacent areas. Another operative's successful distraction drew guards away from areas where other team members faced obstacles. Ninja operations achieve force multiplication through coordination. 6 operatives working with awareness of each other's activities can accomplish what might require 12 working in isolation. But this coordination must occur without direct communication that might compromise security. He displays the timeline reconstruction showing all operatives' movements simultaneously. Patterns emerge, periods when multiple operatives were concentrated in certain areas, creating elevated risk. Other periods when operatives were optimally distributed, reducing mutual interference. Notice at 0130 hours, 3 operatives were simultaneously in the central village section, Muramasa points out. While none were detected, the concentration increased risk. If one had been compromised, investigation might have exposed others. Better coordination would have staggered timing to distribute risk. The students analyze how pre-operation planning could have achieved better coordination. Assigned objectives could be sequenced to minimize temporal overlap in high-risk areas. Communication protocols could enable limited coordination without compromising security. Predetermined signals that operatives could deploy to indicate status or complications. Muramasa introduces a new concept, operational tempo manipulation. Your actions affect the environment's alert level. Early operation phases should minimize disturbance, maintaining normal conditions for later operatives. As operation progresses and extraction approaches, increased alert becomes acceptable since operatives are leaving anyway. He shows how one operative's early phase noise, though not resulting in detection, increased watchmen's alertness, making subsequent infiltrations more difficult. Better operational discipline in early phases would have maintained optimal conditions throughout. The debriefing examines near misses and close calls. Takeshi's encounter with the civilian on the porch receives particular attention. You made correct decision under time pressure, Muramasa assesses. However, the situation arose partly due to earlier timing choices. Had you entered the headman's residence 15 minutes earlier, extraction would have occurred before that civilian emerged. Mission planning should account for civilian behavior patterns, predictable activities like insomnia, late-night bathroom visits, early rising for work. They discuss alternative approaches Takeshi might have employed. Waiting longer held risks but might have been optimal. Backtracking to find another route would have been safer but more time-consuming. Moving through the civilian's field of view was bold but created exposure risk. Each choice involved trade-offs requiring judgment under pressure. There are rarely perfect solutions, Muramasa states. Your training develops judgment to select best available option under imperfect circumstances. Second-guessing afterward is educational, not criticism. Learn from alternatives without believing any choice was objectively wrong. The session analyzes equipment performance. The camera functioned correctly, producing clear photographs. The listening device is currently transmitting, its signal being received at the monitoring station. Climbing equipment performed well, though one operative's rope showed wear, suggesting replacement. Every technical aspect receives scrutiny. Physical conditioning assessment follows. Which operatives showed fatigue affecting performance? Did anyone struggle with climbing, extended observation periods, or the return ascent to the temple? Physical limitations must be identified and addressed through targeted training. Hikaru showed excellent infiltration skills, but struggled during the mountain ascent, Muramasa notes. His target objective required minimal climbing, but significant endurance for the return journey. Consider whether mission assignments should better match operative physical profiles or whether Hikaru's conditioning requires focused improvement. The analysis extends to psychological factors. Did anyone show excessive caution, missing opportunities due to fear? Did anyone show insufficient caution, taking unnecessary risks? The psychological dimension of operations proves as important as technical skills. Fear serves survival, Muramasa explains, but excessive fear prevents mission accomplishment. You must calibrate your risk assessment accurately, neither overestimating dangers nor dismissing them. This calibration comes from experience, exposure to varied situations, and honest self-assessment. They examine decision-making under uncertainty. Multiple operatives faced situations requiring choices without complete information. Did they gather available intelligence efficiently? Did they make reasonable inferences? Did they accept appropriate risk levels given mission priorities? One operative chose to abort their objective when encountering unexpected complications. Muramasa analyzes this decision. Was abortion correct? Consider factors: mission priority level, alternative approaches available, risk to other operatives if detected, and your assessment of detection probability. What was your reasoning? The operative explains their thought process. Muramasa probes deeper, testing whether the reasoning was sound or whether anxiety drove premature withdrawal. Your assessment of detection probability appears too high given actual circumstances. However, your decision to withdraw rather than force an approach you weren't confident about was sound. Better to acknowledge capability limits than create catastrophic failures. The debriefing concludes with forward-looking analysis. What should change in future training? Which skills need reinforcement? What new scenarios would address identified weaknesses? The clan continuously evolves its training based on operational lessons. Tonight demonstrated strong individual capabilities, but revealed coordination opportunities, Muramasa summarizes. Future exercises will emphasize team awareness, timing synchronization, and distributed planning. You will learn to operate as coordinated teams while maintaining individual autonomy necessary for covert operations. The weight of the shadow life. As the formal debriefing concludes and operatives disperse to rest, Takeshi finds himself unable to immediately sleep despite exhaustion. The night's intensity, the danger, the stress, the constant vigilance leaves him mentally activated, thoughts racing through scenarios and alternatives. He sits in the temple's meditation garden, a space deliberately designed for psychological recovery. The garden follows principles documented in historical texts about creating environments that calm the mind. Flowing water, carefully positioned rocks, specific plant arrangements, each element serves psychological purposes. Another operative joins him, Kenji, the senior shinobi, who verified Takeshi's identity upon return from reconnaissance days earlier. Kenji has operated for 20 years, surviving dozens of missions that killed others. His presence suggests understanding of what Takeshi is experiencing. They sit in silence initially, watching dawnlight transform the garden's shadows. Eventually, Kenji speaks. "The first years are hardest. You're skilled enough to undertake dangerous missions, but haven't yet developed psychological defenses against the stress." Takeshi appreciates the understanding. "During the operation, everything was clear. React, adapt, survive. Afterward, I replay every moment, seeing all the ways things might have gone wrong." That replay serves two purposes, Kenji explains. Educationally, it helps you learn and prepare for future operations. Psychologically, it's your mind processing danger and fear. Both purposes are valuable, but you must manage the process rather than letting it control you. This conversation touches on aspects of ninja life rarely discussed in historical records, but undoubtedly real for actual operatives. The psychological burden of constant danger, deception, and isolation affects even the most skilled warriors. "I sometimes question the worth of this life," Takeshi admits. "We operate in shadows, receive no recognition, and face death for objectives we don't fully understand. What sustains you?" Kenji considers the question carefully. "Purpose sustains me. Not the specific missions, those change constantly, but the larger purpose, protecting the clan, maintaining capabilities that serve strategic balance, and preserving knowledge that might otherwise be lost. We are part of something larger than individual operations." He continues, "Also community. The operatives here understand what you experience because they experience it too. This shared understanding creates bonds stronger than those in conventional society. We trust each other absolutely because we must." The conversation reflects philosophical dimensions of shinobi existence. These warriors couldn't rely on conventional sources of meaning, public honor, fame, family legacy. They found purpose through different frameworks: mastery of craft, loyalty to community, and satisfaction in successful operations. "The isolation weighs heavily sometimes," Takeshi says. "Maintaining cover identities, deceiving everyone we encounter, unable to share our true selves except here within the temple." "That isolation is both burden and protection," Kenji responds. "Yes, it prevents normal social connections, but it also creates clear boundaries. Within the temple, you can be authentic. Outside, you play roles. This separation helps prevent identity confusion that destroys some operatives." Identity confusion, the psychological state where prolonged deception blurs the boundary between cover identities and authentic self, represents a real danger for long-term operatives. Some ninjas spent months or years embedded in target organizations, living false identities so consistently that they struggled to remember who they truly were. The clan provides psychological support, Kenji notes. The meditation training, the debriefing processes, the community bonds all serve to maintain your core identity despite the roles you must play. Use these resources. Don't try to manage everything alone. They discuss specific psychological techniques for managing operational stress. Compartmentalization helps separate mission experiences from personal identity. Ritual practices, like the equipment maintenance routine, provide psychological transitions between operational and non-operational states. Regular meditation develops mental discipline that prevents intrusive thoughts from dominating consciousness. Physical training also serves psychological purposes, Kenji explains. When your mind races with scenarios and fears, intense physical activity redirects that energy. The exhaustion creates conditions for rest. Many operatives find physical training more valuable for mental health than for combat preparation. Takeshi asks about fear management. Despite training and experience, he still feels fear during dangerous operations. Does this indicate weakness? Should he eventually reach a state without fear? Fear never disappears completely, Kenji assures him, nor should it. Fear provides survival advantages: heightened awareness, faster reactions, appropriate caution. The goal isn't eliminating fear, but managing it. Fear should inform your decisions without controlling them. He describes techniques for fear management during operations. Breathing control provides immediate psychological regulation. Specific breathing patterns trigger calming physiological responses. Cognitive reframing transforms fear into useful alertness rather than paralyzing anxiety. Acceptance reduces fear's power, acknowledging danger without fighting the emotional response. Some of our most successful operatives feel intense fear during every mission, Kenji reveals. They simply don't let fear determine their actions. They feel it, acknowledge it, and proceed anyway. This is courage, not absence of fear, but action despite fear. The conversation shifts to relationships outside the clan. Can ninja maintain normal family connections? How do they explain absences, injuries, and the psychological changes that combat and deception inevitably create? Some operatives maintain external families, Kenji says. It's difficult but possible. Others, like myself, find that life incompatible with shinobi existence. There's no correct choice. Each person must decide what they can sustain. He speaks of operatives who tried maintaining both lives and failed. The deception required became unbearable, or family members grew suspicious, or the divided loyalty compromised operational effectiveness. Others succeeded, compartmentalizing so effectively that family never suspected their true activities. If you choose to maintain external relationships, Kenji advises, establish clear boundaries, decide what you will and won't share, create cover stories that explain your absences and activities without requiring constant improvisation, and accept that the deception costs something. You can have relationships, but not completely honest ones. Takeshi asks about the future. How long can operatives maintain this lifestyle? What happens when age or injury ends field capability? The clan takes care of its members, Kenji responds. Those who can no longer operate transition into training, intelligence analysis, or support roles. Your skills remain valuable even when physical capabilities decline. And the clan ensures you're provided for. You won't be abandoned after years of service. He gestures toward the temple complex. Many of the instructors, analysts, and specialists you've trained with are former field operatives. They continue serving the clan while passing knowledge to the next generation. This is the path all eventually take as well. The conversation provides Takeshi comfort and perspective. He's not alone in his struggles, and the challenges he faces are understood and manageable. The clan provides not just training and operational direction, but also psychological support and community. As they sit in the garden, other operatives gradually emerge from their quarters. Some join in quiet conversation, others perform solitary exercises or meditation. Despite their individual struggles, they form a community bound by shared experience and mutual dependence. One more thought Kenji offers as they prepare to part. Don't romanticize this life, but don't despise it either. It is what it is, demanding, dangerous, and often unrewarding by conventional measures. But it's also purposeful, skillful, and meaningful in ways most people never experience. Hold both truths simultaneously. Takeshi bows in gratitude, then moves toward his quarters for much-needed rest. The conversation has helped process the night's intensity and provided tools for managing future operations. He understands more clearly now that being a ninja means more than mastering techniques. It requires developing psychological resilience, maintaining identity under pressure, and finding meaning in work that receives no external validation. The intelligence analysis process. After brief rest, Takeshi's day continues with assignment to the intelligence analysis section. While he primarily operates as a field agent, all operatives receive rotation through support functions. This cross-training ensures everyone understands how their field activities connect to larger strategic objectives. The analysis room bustles with quiet activity. Ayame, the elderly intelligence specialist, coordinates multiple ongoing projects. Scrolls cover work tables, maps line the walls, and several analysts work on different aspects of the clan's information requirements. Field operatives provide raw intelligence, Ayame explains to Takeshi. We transform that raw material into actionable understanding. Your reconnaissance reports, for instance, require integration with historical information, comparison against other sources, and analysis of implications. She shows Takeshi the processing procedure for his recent fortress reconnaissance. His observations have been recorded in standardized format, then cross-referenced against previous intelligence about that location. Discrepancies receive special attention. Changes in security procedures, different personnel assignments, modified architectural features. This guard captain you noted shows ambidextrous capability, Ayame points out. Cross-referencing reveals he transferred from another region 3 months ago. That region recently experienced ninja infiltration. Conclusion, his assignment here likely reflects concern about similar threats. The Lord is taking proactive security measures. This analytical process transforms individual observations into strategic understanding. The Lord's increased security investment suggests he anticipates conflict or possesses valuable information that others might seek. This intelligence affects how the clan approaches future operations in that region. Takeshi learns the intelligence cycle, requirements definition, collection planning, information gathering, processing and analysis, and dissemination to decision-makers. Each phase requires specialized skills and systematic procedures. Requirements come from multiple sources, Ayame explains. Clan leadership identifies strategic questions needing answers. Field operatives request information supporting their missions. External clients who hire our services specify intelligence they need. We prioritize these requirements based on importance, urgency, and collection feasibility. She shows the requirements tracking system, an elaborate set of scrolls documenting every active intelligence question, assignment status, and resource allocation. The system ensures nothing falls through cracks and enables efficient resource utilization. Collection planning matches requirements to sources and methods, Ayame continues. Some questions need human intelligence, operatives gathering information directly. Others need open-source intelligence, analyzing publicly available information. Still others need technical intelligence, intercepting communications or documents. Takeshi sees the complexity involved. A single intelligence requirement might demand multiple collection approaches. Understanding a lord's strategic intentions, for instance, requires human intelligence from sources close to decision-making, open-source analysis of his public statements and actions, and potentially intercepted communications revealing private deliberations. The processing phase involves organizing and standardizing raw information. Field reports arrive in various formats and quality levels. Analysts must extract relevant facts, assess reliability, and structure information for effective analysis. Your reports are excellent, Ayame notes, clear, specific, well organized, but not all operatives write so well. Part of our job is extracting value even from poorly documented observations. She demonstrates with a report from another operative, rambling, vague, and disorganized. Through careful questioning and cross-referencing, she extracts useful intelligence that the operative observed but didn't recognize as significant. Analysis represents the most intellectually demanding phase. Analysts must identify patterns, draw inferences, recognize deceptions, and develop conclusions that go beyond what raw information directly states. Consider this pattern, Ayame shows Takeshi. 3 merchants traveled from this region to the capital over the past month. Individually unremarkable, but analyzed together with knowledge that these merchants all have connections to the regional lord and that similar patterns preceded previous military mobilizations, we infer possible war preparation. This analytical leap from individual observations to strategic conclusions requires deep knowledge of historical patterns, human behavior, and political dynamics. It also requires appropriate epistemic humility, recognizing when evidence supports strong conclusions versus when multiple interpretations remain plausible. Intelligence analysis isn't about certainty, Ayame emphasizes. It's about reducing uncertainty to manageable levels. We provide decision makers with best assessments based on available evidence, clearly communicating confidence levels and alternative possibilities. Takeshi practices analysis on historical cases. Ayame presents intelligence from past operations, has him develop conclusions, then reveals what actually occurred. This training develops analytical judgment and reveals common cognitive biases that mislead inexperienced analysts. One case involves apparent evidence of betrayal by a clan member. The intelligence seems damning: suspicious meetings, unexplained wealth, and information leaks correlating with this individual's knowledge. Takeshi concludes betrayal is likely. Ayame reveals the actual explanation. The individual was conducting an authorized operation that required appearing to betray the clan. The information leaks were deliberate deceptions, feeding false intelligence to enemies. This case teaches crucial lessons, Ayame explains. Apparent patterns can deceive. Context matters immensely, and compartmentalization means analysts sometimes lack information that would change their conclusions. Maintain appropriate uncertainty and seek confirming evidence before committing to conclusions. The dissemination phase involves communicating intelligence to users in formats meeting their needs. Operational commanders need brief, actionable summaries. Strategic planners need detailed analysis with supporting evidence. Field operatives need specific tactical intelligence relevant to their missions. Effective dissemination matches information to audience, Ayame states. Too much detail overwhelms operational users. Too little detail prevents strategic planners from assessing confidence levels. We tailor products to user requirements. Takeshi assists in preparing an intelligence summary for Muramasa regarding regional political developments. The summary must compress dozens of reports into a concise assessment with key points highlighted and detailed supporting evidence available in appendices. The work proves intellectually demanding. Every word choice matters. Stronger or weaker confidence expressions significantly affect how users interpret the intelligence. Organization determines whether busy decision makers extract key points quickly. Visual presentation, maps, diagrams, timelines can convey complex information more effectively than text alone. Intelligence work offers different satisfactions than field operations, Ayame reflects. You don't face immediate danger or experience dramatic moments, but you solve intellectual puzzles, and your work enables countless successful operations. Field operatives get the glory, such as it is, but analysts enable the victories. She explains her own path to this role. Originally trained as a field operative, an injury ended her physical capability for demanding missions. Rather than leaving the clan, she transitioned into intelligence work, discovering aptitude for analysis that proved more valuable than her field skills. The clan needs diverse capabilities, she emphasizes. Not everyone must be a legendary infiltrator or deadly warrior. Intelligence specialists, trainers, logisticians, medical experts, all these roles are essential. Recognize your strengths and find where you contribute most effectively. Takeshi spends the afternoon immersed in intelligence work, gaining appreciation for the analytical foundation supporting field operations. He understands now how his reconnaissance observations feed into larger intelligence pictures, how his success depends on analysis preceding his missions, and how the entire organization functions as an integrated system. As the session concludes, Ayame provides final guidance. When you return to field operations, remember what you've learned here. Recognize the intelligence requirements driving your missions. Observe with analytical mindset, considering what information would be most valuable. And trust that even observations seeming insignificant to you might prove crucial when integrated with other intelligence. The Code and Ethics of the Shadow. Evening brings another dimension of ninja training, often overlooked in popular accounts: systematic instruction in ethics, decision-making frameworks, and the philosophical principles governing shinobi conduct. Muramasa leads this session personally, gathering senior operatives and promising junior members in a chamber reserved for clan governance discussions. The setting itself conveys importance. This isn't routine training, but transmission of core values. Techniques can be taught systematically, Muramasa begins. Ethics and judgment emerge from deeper understanding. Tonight we examine the principles that should guide your decisions when no clear rules apply. He presents a scenario. An operative infiltrating an enemy fortress discovers evidence of planned massacre against an innocent village. The operative's mission objectives don't involve this information, and revealing it would compromise clan security. What should the operative do? The scenario generates immediate discussion. Some argue mission objectives take absolute priority. The operative should ignore the discovery and complete assigned tasks. Others contend that preventing mass murder overrides mission parameters. Still others suggest compromises, finding ways to warn the village without directly compromising the operative's position. Muramasa lets the debate continue, occasionally posing challenges to different positions. To those prioritizing mission success, does ninjacraft have any moral boundaries, or are we simply weapons wielded without conscience? To those prioritizing humanitarian concerns, if every operative makes independent moral choices, how does the clan maintain operational security and strategic coherence? The discussion reveals genuine tensions without easy resolutions. The clan needs disciplined operatives who follow directives reliably. It also needs thinking individuals who can make complex judgment calls in situations that defy simple rules. The historical Iga and Koga clans faced these questions constantly, Muramasa explains. They developed frameworks, not rigid rules, but principles guiding judgment. These frameworks balance multiple values: loyalty, pragmatism, strategic interest, and basic humanity. He outlines the core principles documented in texts like the Bansenshukai and passed down through oral tradition. First, mission objectives derive from strategic purposes larger than individual operations. Understanding why a mission matters helps operatives make appropriate decisions when circumstances deviate from planning. Second, unnecessary harm serves no one. Violence, deception, and disruption are tools to be used discriminately. Operatives who cause gratuitous damage create enemies, attract attention, and undermine long-term strategic interests. Third, the clan's survival takes precedence over individual missions. If completing an operation would expose the organization to existential threat, abandoning that operation becomes appropriate, even at cost of disappointing clients or losing specific advantages. Fourth, operatives must maintain integrity within the clan even while deceiving outsiders. Internal trust enables everything else. Without it, the organization fragments into competing individuals. Fifth, professional standards matter. Ninja accept contracts in good faith and fulfill obligations competently. Reputation for reliability and effectiveness represents strategic capital that must be preserved. These principles don't eliminate difficult decisions, Muramasa acknowledges. They provide framework for working through dilemmas. Let's apply them to the scenario. He guides analysis of the massacre discovery scenario through each principle. Mission objectives presumably serve clan strategic interests, but preventing massacre might also serve those interests by establishing reputation for humanitarian restraint. Unnecessary harm principles suggest preventing mass killing aligns with clan values. Survival considerations mean the operative must find approaches that accomplish good without exposing the organization. One possible approach, Muramasa suggests, involves anonymous warning to the village through channels unconnected to your operation. You complete your assigned objectives, then utilize separate cover identity to pass information to village leadership. This serves humanitarian purposes while maintaining operational security. He emphasizes that this represents one possible approach, not the only correct one. Different situations might demand different responses based on specific circumstances, strategic contexts, and available options. The session examines actual historical cases where ninja faced ethical dilemmas. In one documented incident, a shinobi discovered his assassination target was secretly funding orphanages and providing food to poor communities. Should the operative complete the assassination knowing it would harm innocents who depended on the target's charity? Historical records don't always reveal how such situations resolved, but the cases prompt discussion about sources of moral authority. Whether operatives can refuse missions based on ethical objections, and how the clan should handle situations where client interests conflict with clan values. We are not mindless tools, Muramasa states firmly. Clients hire our services, but we maintain independence regarding which contracts we accept. We refuse missions that would require actions violating our core principles, or that would create strategic problems exceeding operational benefits. He describes the clan's decision-making process for contract evaluation. Proposed missions undergo review, examining strategic implications, ethical dimensions, feasibility, and alignment with clan interests. The leadership can reject lucrative contracts that fail these criteria. This independence distinguishes professional shinobi from simple criminals, Muramasa explains. We maintain standards and make considered judgments rather than accepting any task for any price. The discussion shifts to personal ethics and psychological health. How do operatives maintain moral identity while regularly engaging in deception, manipulation, and occasionally violence? Compartmentalization helps but has limits, Muramasa notes. If you think of yourself as fundamentally different from your actions, psychological integration becomes impossible. Instead, understand that ethical people can take ethically complex actions when circumstances demand it. He emphasizes intention and context. An operative who kills during a mission isn't a murderer. If the killing served legitimate strategic purposes, was necessary for mission success, or was executed without cruelty or excess. Context transforms the moral character of actions that would be unconscionable in different circumstances. This doesn't mean anything is permissible, Muramasa clarifies. It means that ethical judgment requires considering full context, purposes, alternatives, necessity, and execution. Actions that appear identical can be morally different based on these contextual factors. The session addresses torture and extreme interrogation techniques. The clan's position is clear. Torture is generally ineffective for intelligence gathering and creates more problems than it solves. But are there situations where extreme measures become justified? We maintain strict boundaries, Muramasa states. Interrogation techniques can be psychologically intense, but physical torture is prohibited. This isn't squeamishness, it's pragmatism. Torture produces unreliable intelligence, creates enemies, and corrupts operatives who employ it. He discusses research from historical practice showing that rapport building, strategic deception, and psychological manipulation yield better intelligence than violence. The prohibition on torture thus serves both ethical and practical purposes. The final topic addresses the broader question of shinobi existence in society. Do ninja serve constructive purposes, or does their existence perpetuate cycles of violence and mistrust? This question has no simple answer, Muramasa admits. We exist because political structures create demand for our services. Would society be better without us? Perhaps. But that society doesn't currently exist. Given the world as it is, we provide capabilities that serve stability and balance in some circumstances. He argues that ninja organizations can constrain violence rather than escalating it. A lord contemplating military campaign might be dissuaded by intelligence revealing enemy strength, gathered by shinobi reconnaissance. An assassination might prevent war killing thousands. Information operations might resolve conflicts without bloodshed. We are not heroes, Muramasa concludes, but neither are we simply villains. We operate in moral complexity, trying to make ethical choices within difficult circumstances. This requires constant reflection, community discussion, and commitment to principles transcending immediate operational demands. The session leaves operatives with more questions than answers, perhaps intentionally. Moral certainty can be dangerous in a profession requiring constant judgment calls. Instead, the training cultivates thoughtful, reflective practitioners who can navigate ethical complexity while maintaining operational effectiveness. The cycle continues. As the second night at the temple draws towards close, the rhythm of shinobi life continues its pattern of training, operations, analysis, and recovery. Takeshi, now approaching 40 hours with minimal sleep, finally returns to his quarters for extended rest. But even sleep serves operational purposes. Ninja training includes techniques for maximizing recovery in limited time, achieving deeper rest in shorter periods, and waking instantly to full alertness when circumstances demand. Before sleeping, Takeshi performs a final ritual, reviewing the day's experiences, identifying key lessons, and setting intentions for continued improvement. This reflective practice helps consolidate learning and maintains the continuous growth mindset essential for long-term success. The temple around him continues its activities. Some operatives are departing from missions in the valley below. Others return from extended deployments, bringing intelligence that will feed into the analysis processes. Instructors prepare for tomorrow's training sessions. Support staff maintain equipment and supplies. The organization functions like a living system, complex, adaptive, and resilient. Individual members come and go, but the institution persists, accumulating knowledge and refining capabilities across generations. Outside, the mountain stands unchanging, its peaks catching first light as dawn approaches. For centuries, these peaks have sheltered the ninja temple, protecting secrets that have survived wars, political upheavals, and the slow evolution of Japanese society. The life Takeshi has chosen offers few conventional rewards. No public recognition, no family legacy bearing his name, no comfortable prosperity. Instead, it offers mastery of extraordinary skills, participation in events that shape history, and membership in a community bound by shared purpose and mutual trust. Is it a worthy life? The question has no objective answer. For Takeshi and those like him, the answer is yes. Not because ninja life is objectively superior to alternatives, but because it aligns with his abilities, values, and sense of purpose. The temple embodies knowledge refined through centuries of practice. Every technique, every training method, every organizational principle emerged from operational experience. Countless ninja lived, operated, succeeded, failed, and died to create the accumulated wisdom now preserved in scrolls, architecture, and living tradition. Modern special operations forces would recognize much of this wisdom. The emphasis on intelligence, the careful mission planning, the psychological operations, the need for political understanding, these principles transcend specific historical contexts. The tools change across eras, but fundamental human factors remain constant. What makes the historical ninja fascinating isn't superhuman abilities or mystical powers. It's the systematic approach to developing human potential for specific purposes. They understood that exceptional performance requires comprehensive training, that tactical success depends on strategic intelligence, and that organizational effectiveness demands balancing individual capability with collective coordination. The Night in the Life of a Ninja reveals this reality. Behind the legends and dramatic portrayals lies professional practice, institutional knowledge, and human beings developing extraordinary skills through dedication and discipline. As Takeshi finally sleeps, the temple continues its eternal rhythm. Another night, another set of operations and training exercises, another cycle of the system that has preserved shinobi craft across centuries. The sun rises over the mountain, illuminating the temple complex briefly before mist rolls in, obscuring the structures from the valley below. The temple vanishes from sight, returning to the invisibility that has protected it for generations. Like the temple itself, the ninja remain hidden, not through magic, but through systematic practice of concealment, misdirection, and strategic patience. They exist in the shadows not because darkness is their nature, but because it serves their purposes. The life continues, demanding, dangerous, and deeply purposeful for those who choose it.